Hey guys, welcome to my comprehensive review of the Boosted Board version 2. Today I'm just going to be talking about everything you need to know about the Boosted Board V2. If you're looking at different boards, if you're looking at the Boosted Board, which one you should buy, or anything you should know. Let's get right into it. First thing I'm going to be talking about today is going to be the Boosted Board V2 controller, and there's some differences from the V1. Main differences is just the lighting. So if you turn it on here, you can notice it's green, it was and then orange, and if you want to pair it, you just got to press it 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. See, it makes a sound, and it has a blue light, and I'm just going to turn it off because the boosted board is in another room. That is one of the main differences. One of the other main differences is all of this is black, and on the old one it is gray. So this button right here, the activate button, the wheel, and also the button was also gray. The operation of this controller is very, very simple. The thing you need to do is just press this activate button, and that is to go forward if you scroll up. If you go back down, that is to go backwards, and that is also braking if you're going at speeds. You may see some cosmetic wear on this controller, which is mine. You can see it right there, and the straps broke off, and that's just because I have fallen 2 times and I fell straight. When I was riding, I fell straight like that, and it scraped and also tore off the handle. But that only happened because I fell. It's a great controller. It out of every controller I've ever held, it's definitely my favorite in the way of how it feels in your hand, because it's a very solid, and with the strap it doesn't fall off. But in my case, it fell off. First thing you want to do once you get your controller and the board, you're going to want to turn it on, turn the controller on, wait till that boots up, and then you're going to want to turn the board on. My board I just wrote it, so it is out of battery, but as you can see, when it shows this blue light right here, that means it is connected. And as you can see, the little light right there on the board, it is flashing, and it's flashing with that, so it shows the battery life of the board. There are 4 modes. There is beginner, eco, expert, pro, and expert, I think. Those are the 4. And if you want to change through those, you just hit it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. So, and it's for the controller, when it does that, 1 beep is for beginner, 2 beeps is for eco, 3 beeps is for expert, and then 4 beeps is for pro. So I was just that was just on beginner, and that's why it beeped twice. So 1, 2, 3. So that's 3. So now it's on expert, and then if you do it again, 1, 2, 3. That was 4 beeps. So now it's on pro, and that is the one I usually ride on, which is the full torque and full power. If you're just now getting the board, I would not recommend riding at that power because it is pretty strong and you will most likely fall. And the controller is connected right now, so if I were to see, if you do this right here, that's not going to do anything, so you have to press the activate button and do that. And you could hear that is the whine of the motors, which I like very much, but right now it is connected, and if you just want to disconnect it, you can just do this. Turn the board off too. And now they're both off. When you're first turning on the controller and the board, it does take a little bit of time for the controller to boot up with the board. So if you turn the board on, which is faster than the controller, and you turn the controller on, you can see it's not connected yet. Okay, well that connected very, very quickly because it's right next to it. And if it does get out of sync somehow, so if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it makes the pairing button. So right now it's not connected. So if I were to press that and do that, it's not connected. So the one way you would do that to connect it, you would press this also 5 times. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it's paired because that's blue, and then this is blue, and it'll go back to green. Okay, so now it does work. Now we're going to be talking about the board itself. So as you can see here, there are some scrapes on this board. That's because I ride it on the concrete, and if you're going down like a little bit of a hill or something like that that's kind of steep, you will scrape it just because this is about a good like 1.5 inches of battery that is above the board. One thing that they did change from the Boosted Board V1 and Boosted Board V2 is this little flap. I did hear that it was very, very hard to get it. Like after a while, it just wouldn't even go in, and that is a lot better on the Boosted Board V2. As you can see, these 6 screws right here, you can change the battery out right now. Boosted doesn't have actually another battery you can buy right now, but the extended battery will be coming Q4, which is like December and November and October. That is when they will be coming out with that battery. So when you turn the board on, it'll go green right there, and then it will show the battery life of the board. Right now it is out of battery because this board is waterproof, so if you were to get waters anywhere on the battery or the internals, which are down here, which I will show in a minute, it would be fine. So if you pour water in there, that's fine. It's not gonna ruin it. Nothing will happen. Another thing they added in the Boosted Board V2 is right here. If you can see that little wire that's pointing right there, right under the truck there is a little, it's a connector. I actually don't know what connector it is, but if you want to connect lights to the front of it, if you wanted to connect a USB port, so if you wanted to charge your phone from this battery here, you could do that, which I like that. I think that's really cool that they added that. These are very nice trucks. These are also different from the V1 trucks. If you've ever ridden a V1 or a V2, you'll notice the difference like right away. These are custom made while the other ones weren't. These are just real nice, and as you can see, the orangutan wheels these are 80mm wheels, while the other ones were 75, and you can definitely tell a difference because that 80 just makes it so much easier to go over bumps or anything on the road. And I've hit some pretty big bumps before, and it goes over them just fine. So let's talk about the back of the board here. So these are the two motors right here. These are the belts that connect to the motor and to the wheel itself. And as you can see, when you roll this one time over, so if you do a full rotation of this does 3 rotations. So the ratio is 1 to 3, and that's what gives it all the torque that it has. So on the Boosted Board V1, these wires, as you can see here, these were like from braided cable, so it was very easy for water to get into them, and that's what would cause the V1 to shut down because of water. This isn't completely water resistant, but it's a lot better than what the V1 was because of these really nice wires that they have in here. This is where all the internals are for the board. So this is where the 2 Bluetooth things are, and they made 2 of them because if you want to connect the controller to it, or if you wanted to connect your phone to it. So you can connect both of those without having to change between the 2 of them, which I think is really nice because you can now have 2 instead of just 1. Next thing I want to talk about are the skid plates, and that's this and this right here. And as you can tell, they have had better days, but that's just because when you ride it, they will get scratched. It is going to happen no matter what. The next thing I want to talk about is the belts here. So as you can see, this is the belt and this is the belt here. They are open, but that doesn't really matter. I've had to replace the belt one time, and I think I've ridden about 330 miles on this boosted board itself. You should get anywhere from 100 to 400 of miles between these. One thing that really does wear these belts down is braking very hard. So if you were going down a hill at top speed of 22 miles an hour and you were to brake immediately, that is going to put a lot of stress onto these things, and that will cause them to wear, and it will break over eventually. They are very strong belts, but nothing stays alive forever. One thing you guys should know about the Boosted Board V2, it is very expensive. It is $1,500 to $1,600. Now that they don't have the reservation fee, it is just $15, but it's not much better than $16, but it's a little bit better. If you guys have ever ridden a Boosted Board V2 or any kind of electric skateboard, you will definitely know the difference between when you ride the Boosted Board V2. Just riding it and just carving through the streets is just, with the 80mm wheels, it's so much better than anything else, and the torque that comes with it, it is very nice, and it's a lot better than any other board. So if you're looking on going to a cheap board, like a $400 to $500 board, like the Blink S2 or the Blink S or the Blink Lite, the Boosted Board V2 is very different than any other board, mainly just because it's boosted, and they just have, it's almost like the Apple of electric skateboards, while everything else is kind of like, not Samsung, but like LG and all those things right there. It's just the Apple, it's just like, everything's just like almost perfect on it. The one biggest complaint that I have, and if anybody else has a Boosted Board V2, is the battery life. So I ride on the highest mode. It is the Pro mode. It gives all torque, the highest speed you can get, but I might get 4 miles out of it. Maybe. I can only go around my neighborhood like maybe twice, and it's a pretty big neighborhood, but 4 miles, I mean, it's okay, but if you're trying to go long places, you definitely don't want to ride in the highest mode just because you're not going to be able to go anywhere. You're going to have to ride in like the beginner mode because that's 12 miles an hour and you can get 7 miles out of that. One thing I am very happy about is that they're going to be making a better battery, and it's going to be doubled basically. So right now I ride at Pro, so that gives me 4 miles basically, so now I'll be able to get 8 miles out of my ride, which is better than 4 miles. I mean, it's double that, so I'll be able to go a lot longer than that. One bad thing about the battery, though, it's not going to be coming out till Q4, so that's basically October, November, December, and that's quite far away. So that's in the middle of the year during school, so you're not going to be able to ride it as much, and it's going to be a long time before they come out with it. So if you don't know, the way that the boosted board rides is by a belt-driven system. It's a ratio of 1 to 3, so that means that every time you go 1 revolution on the wheel itself, 3 revolutions are going in the motor. And that is because it gives you it gives you a lot more torque, and it's better on the battery life. It gives you more battery, but it doesn't get that much battery life. If we're going to talk about another board like the Evolve GT, it's the same thing. It's 2 belt driven with the 1-to-3 ratio, but the battery in that is so much bigger. You can go close to 27 miles on it if you're running in the highest mode, and that is a lot better battery mileage. But that board, it's okay. I've heard reviews about it. It's not better than the Boosted Board V2 in my opinion, just because it's just not as it's not the good build as the Boosted Board V2 is. One other thing I wanted to talk about is the board itself. So the board itself is made out of bamboo. It's somebody makes it, but it is very bouncy. So if you're, I'm 150 pounds, and if you're on it, and you can literally just jump and jump. It's almost like a trampoline. It's actually quite fun to do, and it's quite fun to scare people when you go next to them and jump on it and act like you break it. So that's also a fun thing. But no, it is very bouncy, and you'll be able to, it will not break. And I've never heard of anybody's breaking when they're bouncing on it, so if yours does, then I'm sorry about that. I already talked about the controller, but it is a very nice controller, I think. It is, in my opinion, it is probably the best controller out there, just because, you might have different opinions, but everybody else does. Like the Evolve GT one, it's like a big block kind of with a thing on the front that you just move back and forth, but it's just, I just love the Boosted Board V2. It's just so simple, and it just feels really, really nice in your hands, way better than any other controller I've ever built. As I said before, the Boosted Board V2 is actually a belt-driven system, so it's that 1-to-3 ratio. And like many other electric skateboards that are coming out right now, they're called hub motors, and that's what that means is basically that the motor is inside the wheel itself. So the disadvantages and advantages of either the hub motors or the belt-driven system. So let's talk about belt-driven first system. So belt-driven motors, you have a lot more torque when it's going off it, but you have less battery. When you're using a hub motor, it gives you way less torque, not as nearly as much torque as a belt-driven system as the Boosted Board, but you do get better battery. You do get better battery of it. That's just because one, you're using less torque, and yeah, that's about it. Another advantage of having hub motors is one, it looks like an actual skateboard, but I like the look of the belt-driven just because it looks different, and you don't look like a regular skateboard. It looks cooler than the hub motors in my opinion. Now I just want to talk about the battery in the Boosted Board V2. So in V1 you could not change the battery out, which was I think that's kind of weird. Like many other boards, like the M1, you can just take off and put in another one right there. It takes 5 minutes. But with the Boosted Board V2, to undo it, there's 6 Allen key screws that you just have to unscrew, and that takes, it doesn't take any time at all, but you still have to do that. I wish it was a little bit easier, but it's fine at this moment. Right now, you can't even change out the battery because there's no point in doing it, because unless you have another Boosted Board that's with you, you can't even change the battery out because they don't have any batteries to sell you until Q4, like I already talked. So the last thing I want to talk about is just this review in my mind. So when I was trying to figure out what to buy instead of like a Boosted Board, if I wanted to buy a cheaper board, if I wanted to buy a more expensive board like the Evolve GT, I wanted to make this review just to tell you what is going on in the Boosted Board, because every review I talked about, they were kind of just telling me the very specific specs of the board, and I don't really care about that. I just want to know which one is better than anything else. And obviously some people are going to have different opinions. I really, really like the Boosted Board V2, even though it is very expensive. Like I said before, it's almost like the Apple company. It is definitely the best quality board in my opinion, but I think it could be a little bit cheaper because it is pretty expensive at $1,500. That's a big price tag for what you're asking for. But in my mind, do I think it's worth it? Yeah, I think it's worth it all the way. I think it could be a little bit cheaper, but other than that, I think it's a perfect board. And if you're looking to buy one, you definitely should. If you have $1,000 or $1,500 laying around, you should definitely go with the Boosted Board V2 over anything else, in my opinion. But you don't have to listen to me. That's just one opinion. It is a very, very good quality board, and if you do have a chance to ride one, I would definitely take that chance, because it is one of the best boards that I have ever ridden. And I've been skateboarding for 5 years to 6 years now. I have about 350 miles on the Boosted Board V2, and I got it in, I think, April. When it was first shipping out, so it's a very good. Okay guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I will leave my vlogging channel down in the description. Go check that out. If you liked the video, leave it a like, and if you like the channel, then subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.